Okay, so imagine this. You've been given a job, create a blueprint, but not for a building, not even for a city, for an entire nation, a nation of hundreds of millions of people. Well, that's pretty much what the Indian Constitution is, a massive, detailed plan for the world's largest democracy. And today, we're going to take a look at how it was designed.
So let's just start with that giant question. How do you even begin to run a country with over a billion people? I mean, what kind of rulebook could possibly handle that scale, that mind-boggling diversity?
Well, the answer is you start by writing the world's longest constitution. And its length, that's not just a piece of trivia. It actually tells you just how ambitious and incredibly detailed this plan had to be. So let's unroll this thing and see what's inside. Now, every great blueprint has to start with a vision, right? A core idea of what you're trying to build. And for the Indian Constitution, that big idea is laid out right at the beginning in its preamble. The preamble is basically the soul of the Constitution, all packed into one powerful opening statement. Before you get into any of the laws or the structures, this first page declares the entire philosophy. It's the promise of what India aims to be. And that promise is really built on these 5 pillars. Every single word here was chosen so carefully. Sovereign was a declaration of its new independence. Socialist and secular were put in to tackle deep-rooted inequality and religious diversity. And democratic and republic were there to make one thing crystal clear. Power comes from the people, not from a king. So together, these 5 words, they're not just a list. They're a revolutionary mission statement. Okay, so with that national vision in place, the blueprint then moves to the most important part of any nation, its people. This section lays out the foundation for every single citizen. And at the absolute heart of that foundation are these 6 fundamental rights. Now, these aren't just nice ideas. They are legally enforceable guarantees. You've got rights to equality, freedom, and all the rest. But pay close attention to that last one, constitutional remedies. See how it looks like a key? Well, that's because it's the right that unlocks all the others. This one, right? Article 32 has been called the heart and soul of the entire Constitution. So why is it so important? Because it gives every single citizen the power to go directly to the Supreme Court if any of their other rights are violated. It is quite literally the right that protects all your other rights. But the blueprint also sees citizenship as a two-way street. It's all about balance. On one side, you have your fundamental rights. That's what the state guarantees to you. But on the other side, you've got fundamental duties. That's what's expected of you as a citizen to contribute back. It's a relationship, a give and take.
Okay, so we've got the grand vision for the nation and the rights for its citizens. Now let's talk about the machinery. How does this blueprint actually build the engine that runs the government?
Well, it's built on a 3-tier system, and the whole point is to bring the government closer to the people. So instead of all the power being concentrated in the capital, it's deliberately spread out. You've got the union government for the entire country, then state governments for regional matters, and finally, local councils to manage things in every town and village. Now, at the very top level, the roles are really clearly defined. The president is the formal head of state, sort of like a ceremonial figurehead. But the person with the actual executive power, the one running the show day to day, that's the prime minister. And they are both accountable to the parliament, which is the body that makes the laws for the whole nation.
And here's the really clever part of the blueprint. It's consistency. This exact same structure, a head of state, a head of government, and a lawmaking body, is mirrored in each and every one of India's states. You just have governors, chief ministers, and state legislatures doing those jobs.
So, we have all this machinery, but how do you make sure all these different parts, from the national government down to a tiny village council, all work together without it turning into total chaos? Well, you need a set of rules. And this is basically the instruction manual for the whole machine. It lays out the rules of the game, a clear division of powers so the national and state governments don't fight over who does what, an independent election commission to act as a fair referee, a finance commission to make sure money is shared fairly. It even has a plan for what to do in a national emergency. They really tried to think of everything. But, for all of its incredible detail, the creators of this blueprint included one master rule. Nothing is permanent. They knew the country was going to change in ways they couldn't even imagine. So they designed the plan itself to be adaptable. And has it ever adapted? Just look at that number. Since it was adopted back in 1950, the Indian Constitution has been changed over 100 times. And you know what? That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of its greatest strength, its ability to evolve.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important point. The Constitution is not some historical relic gathering dust on a shelf. It's a living blueprint, one that is constantly being updated to meet the needs of a changing India. And you can see that evolution right here in real time. As India's needs shifted, the blueprint was updated. The 42nd Amendment added those core socialist and secular ideas to the preamble itself. Later amendments pushed power down to local villages. The 86th made education a fundamental right, and more recently, the 101st completely modernized the tax system. The blueprint is always being revised for a new era.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? The Indian Constitution is way more than just the world's longest. It's a dynamic, living document that performs this incredible balancing act between the rights of an individual and the complex machinery of governing a massive nation. It is truly the complete framework for modern India. Which leaves us with a final, pretty fascinating question. This blueprint was designed in the 20th century to build a modern nation. But as India rushes into the 21st century, what's going to be the next big change this living document needs to guide its future? We'd love to hear what you think.